Carbon Crew, but I am very honored to have co-founders with me tonight. So we're gonna sort of tag team on this presentation. Can you all see my screen okay? Just give me a thumbs up. Is that coming through? Awesome. So I know I have a background that Dr. Price, trying to connect those dots. So I'll do a little bit of that for you first, just as we get started. But just the first thing for me is, my family is so critically important to me, and that's us. My wife Kimberly of 27 years, and my son Jack, who's now 22, and my daughter Emily, 19, who's now a sophomore at University of Illinois. And my son Jack is a music producer, and he lives in the city of Chicago, and that is where my career started. And the reason I share this with you all is because music was, since I was 3 years old, I played drums, and it was my passion and what I wanted to do. And I was really fortunate to work with some of the most, talented folks on the planet, some of the most amazing musicians and artists. And the reason I share that is because music at its core is about connection. And when something is true and resonates, it connects. And music, I think, is one of the best examples of that. So I was fortunate to play with John Legend and Nas and lots of folks who you may or may not know, but folks who sort of have a gift to connect with millions and millions of people. But I do have a family. It was a little hard for me to be on the road. And so I got involved with the school. I got involved with the School of Rock, which is a music program, and that helped me marry my love of music and a love of creating things that scale. And at School of Rock, I was one of the first folks to open a franchise, and then I was hired by the company to help them scale across the country and the world. And we took them from maybe 10 locations to about 150 in, I don't know, maybe 8 countries. I think it's here somewhere, something like that. And so it was cool to see something grow and really connect. And that's sort of the pattern here. I left School of Rock in 2015, and I entered into a popcorn company and rebranded them and headed up their strategic partnership, rebranded them from Popcorn Palace to Double Good. And while I was there, up until 2020, we scaled them from about $9 million a year to 25 million. And it's a really great learning opportunity. But at 2020, the beginning of 2020, I was kind of done with the corporate America thing and wanted to change my trajectory. And I was always really connected to working with nonprofits. And so I started my own company called the Beyond Group, and I was helping nonprofits scale. And one of the nonprofits I began to work with was called Love Michael. It is a bakery headquartered in New York City that trains, educates, and employs adults on the autism spectrum. And I started working with them right at the beginning of the pandemic when the world shut down. And in that, we created we had to go virtual because we were really trying to figure out how to keep it going. And that kind of leads me to what I'll talk to you a bit about tonight. But at Love Michael, we started to work with student volunteers to help teach them how to advocate for the cause of Love Michael, which was not only to employ adults on the spectrum, but to understand that autism isn't just something that impacts children. It's something that is along the lifetime of that individual, and the adults don't get a whole lot of attention. And so we started a volunteer program, started very small, and we began to scale that with student volunteers, offering them community service. And they would get their community service by advocating to their family and friends. And we built some technology and some fundraising into that. And it's really exciting to see that grew. So we have over 40,000 volunteers in 61 countries, and they reached about 1 million people with a message of advocacy, and they raised about $4 million to date. As I was working with Love Michael, I got to meet one of the co-founders of Carbon Crew, and that's Dar Riley, who was I think that was in the fall of 2022, and I got introduced to Carbon Crew. And so I did my first Carbon Crew, and had a great impact on me. And Dara had approached me about after hearing what I was doing with Love Michael, asked me if I would help her kind of think through ways that I could help Carbon Crew. And when I got introduced to Carbon Crew, it's a book club on a mission, and has tremendous power to inspire others. And I'm excited to share with you how it works, and to invite both Dar, Sheila, and Joe to join me as we talk through this. But through 2023, I did my first crew at the very tail end of 2022, and through 2023, I hosted 7 crews. And essentially, what we do is we get a group of people together, and we read through a really powerful book called 2040, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's by an author out of Australia named Damon Gameau. And in reading that book and sharing that with your crew, which is usually anywhere from 3 to 10 people. Most of the crews I did were about 5 or 6 people. You get to see that book through their eyes, and learn from each other and share with each other. And in that process, everyone creates a personal climate action plan. And my experience was, in creating that plan, I watched my food bills come way down. I became way more aware of the things that I was doing in my house and my family as well, and had a really huge impact on me. And the whole concept here is to have a crew, to create this plan, and then to replicate. And I think sometimes when it comes to talking about the environment, and I'll say that to this audience is, this is preaching to the choir right now, but sometimes translating that to other folks can be difficult. And I found this book to be really helpful for people to use that as source material, and realize that they can really make a change. And I think that this is a fantastic way to do that. So I'm really honored to have Dar and Sheila and Joe with me tonight. I'd love to invite Dar, if you could unmute Dar, but I would love to maybe have you, Sheila, and Joe talk a little bit about what inspired you to create Crew, and walk the group here tonight through some of that. So turn it over to you for a second, Dar.
Well, drawdown was a huge change in my life. I've been an environmentalist for a long time, and I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a master's in architecture and passive solar design that I got 50 years ago. So my interest in the environment and doing the right thing has been vital in my life. I've started a number of nonprofits in that arena. But the most exciting thing was when I found out about the work of Project Drawdown and what they've done in Project Drawdown, and then also 2040, and I'll get to 20 and 40 in a minute. But Mark, could you scroll to the next slide about Project Drawdown? Because what they did in Project Drawdown, I suspect you all are familiar with this, but what they looked for was non-policy solutions that are active today. And they brought a bunch of scientists and analysts together and found 80 solutions that could be used by households and businesses now that were impactful. And they put them in a prioritized list by their impact on carbon emissions, so that we can tell what the most important things are that we can do. It's really interesting. If you know this, you're probably familiar that ending food waste is a #1 solution, as is the combination of educating women and girls and giving them access to healthcare. So those are some of the powerful things. But it doesn't rely on governmental action. And in my 50 years of being an activist, it felt like things were taking forever, including in my own hometown, where I started an environmental sustainability committee for the town of Southampton. That seemed to take so long. But when I came to this material in Drawdown, I realized that there's so much that we can do individually and in households. And the way that it's framed by Paul Hawken, who was the person who brought all these people together, is that this is an opportunity for us. It's not it's not the downside of everything. This is climate change is an opportunity for us all. It also teaches about sequestering carbon, not just ending carbon going up in the atmosphere, but actually how we pull that carbon down into the ground, which is so wonderful. And that there's so many other kinds of benefits, economic and health benefits when we do change these ways. So there's a wonderful quote that Mark will pull up next, that we see global warming as an invitation to build, innovate, and affect change, a pathway that awakens creativity, compassion, and genius. So that's really true. When we get involved in this, and you all, I'm sure, have been feeling this, that you feel connected, you feel like you're doing something, and you're part of the solution. So another thing was watching the movie 2040. So it became a book, but first it was a movie. And Damon Gameau, who we now work closely with, uh, was not interested in the environment at all. And then he had a daughter that was 3 years old, and he took a trip. He was an actor and a director in Australia, made the film, That Sugar Film. And when he went to Brazil on a tour of the rainforest, he totally changed his interest and awareness of the environment and climate. And he used storytelling and a vision to paint a picture of what the future could be like for his daughter when his daughter turned 20, or in the year 2040, what could life be like? And so we went all around the world looking at solutions in different places and in different arenas. And so that's what has become this book 2040 that we use as our handbook. And again, Mark will scroll down below and you'll see the different topics we use from the book that are the focal points for our personal climate action plans. So we'll study energy and we'll study transport in that chapter, and we'll make that part of our personal climate action plan the week we're working on that. And then we'll move on down to drawing down and sequestering carbon in the ground. And what does that mean? The ramifications of the way farmers work and kelp works and our whole food system works. And then moving down even farther into consumption. What is our fashion industry doing to the world right now? How does educating women and girls play into this whole arena? And lots of other kinds of things. Also a lot of upbeat things like understanding that some things take a long time, like women getting the right to vote, and other things happening instantly. And so giving us that hope that we can make these changes, we can all do it. And so part of the learning from this material was understanding that from the UN Environmental Program report, they found that 2/3 of all emissions come from decisions made at the household level. And this is absolutely so important. And I know you guys all get this. 2/3 of all emissions come from decisions at the household level. And there are other studies that show in Europe, it's 72% of all emissions. And there are other studies that actually show in the United States that it's closer to 80%. But I know myself as a white upper middle class woman, I feel like I am the most powerful person in the whole wide world, because I buy 80% of all consumer products in the United States. I determine what my children eat. I determine how they're educated. I determine how many children I have. And so when we understand our own power and we stop putting blame on somebody else and we own it ourselves, it's just this huge magical opportunity to go for it and do it. So it's just been really wonderful. And the other thing that came to me was this understanding of how change happens and looking at this diffusion of innovation curve. So you see down there at the bottom, there's 2/3, 2/5 of the population in general are innovators. And then look at the next, which is 13.5% of early adopters. Well, what really blew me away was understanding in all these years that I've worked on putting on conferences and trying to educate people about that we have a problem. If instead of doing that, we come together, you and I come together, and we are the early adopters, and how the change happens in business and in policy and everything else is by us coming together and making the change and telling other people about it. And then the early majority becomes the next set of people who take action. And they convince the late majority just by being neighbors and talking about it. But we don't need to worry about educating people and changing people's minds. What we need to do is come together and do it and tell other people what we're doing. So it's interesting, if you'd go down one more, Mark, this is Catherine Hayhoe, who's a climate scientist. And she does say the most important thing you can do to change the climate is talk about it. And so in our 5 sessions, that is a typical standard length for a crew, we have prep material we do for each week. We're reading a chapter in the book. The book is a piece of cake because it's so much fun, a lot of photos, and it's all upbeat. But the other thing that we need to do in addition to making our personal climate action plan is we are going out there and we're making sure we talk about it during that week and getting in the habit of sharing what it is we're up to, because we know that's how change happens. But it's also interesting that the work of Erica Chenoweth, when she was a student at Harvard, she did not believe her teacher, and her teacher got her to do her doctorate thesis on this. But that over the last 100 years, when they look at how nonviolent change happens, it's only 3.5% of a vocal population. Now, they are very, very, very vocal, but it's only 3.5% of the population. So if we went back 2 slides, and we would see that we are 13.5% of the early adopters. We don't need all of those. We just need 3.5% for that tipping point to kick us all into this change that we know that needs to happen. She's got a great book. I think you'd enjoy reading it. Check her out, Erica Chenoweth. So let's keep on going and understanding what that means, because if we have these crews and we're starting with the household level, and we replicate. So I've got a crew of 3 to 10 people, and let's say 3 of those people replicate. So look there at this. Where I live here on Long Island, it would take only to get to that 3.5% of the population. We would have gotten there by 7th iteration. So it's amazing to see how quickly we can get there. And I'm really glad I asked Mark if he wouldn't tell you all about his background, because his background, what he is great at, is scaling. And that's what this project needs, is understanding and activating us in creating this crew product that we can scale. So a little bit farther, and we'll tell you about our mission, which is empowering people to reverse global warming and build a regenerative future. And our vision is to spark the exponential transformation needed for a flourishing planet now. So we do have big goals. We do have big, bold goals. And this is where you come in. But anyway, what's unique about what we do is we're working from that place of visionary optimism. As I mentioned, one of the things I loved about Paul Hawken is this is our opportunity. And we're about action. We create action plans for 5 years out, because some of the things you might not be able to buy your heat pump today, but you know that you'll put it on the roster so you can buy it in 3 or 4 years. So we have a planning system. We come together in a community with other people because it's so much fun to do it. We're not making plans together. We're each making our own individual plans. But doing that side by side, other people, and sharing what we're up to with other people, we get inspired by what they're doing. And they tell us, hey, if you are doing, um, you live in my area and you're working on solar collectors, hey, here's the greatest contractor to do something like that. Oh, you're trying to eliminate use of paper in your house, hey, here's a toilet paper product that's 100% recycled material. Just all those kinds of things. It's really engaging, coming together in community and making these plans. We're working on, as I mentioned, exponential growth by this replication. We support one another for success. So our group comes together after we've finished our 5 sessions. We come together in another month and say, hey, how are you doing? What am I up to? Share what we're up to. And that helps us. We tell other people what we're going to be doing, and this is what I'm going to do the next month. And that helps us actually really get down to brass tacks and do it. We begin with the households. From there, within the program, we talk about apps that are great to help with moving into policy, and also looking at personal finance. And I'm really excited that you're doing that program on February 22nd about finances. I think that's really important, and I like to come that.
Yeah.
And you may have a video with that or that performance that we will put in our resources to share with our people as well. So
Absolutely.
this is what a personal.
Dart.
Yeah. Oh, I'm talking a little too much. Come on.
No, you're good. I was actually, what I wanted to show folks is kind of what a personal climate action plan would look like. And so what I think is really unique about Crew is, prior to the first session, we have everybody benchmark by calculating their Earth overshoot day. So you sort of understand kind of where you are. And then before that first session, you take that Earth Overshoot Day quiz, and you kind of record that. And then through the next few sessions, and just think of it as a book club, right? It's you're getting a chance to to read the material, and then you're coming together with some like-minded folks to share it. And I always say to sort of see it through their eyes. I went through it 7 times. Every time I did it, it was different. Every time I picked up something new, something I hadn't seen before, it hit me at a different point in my life, and really resonated with me. But what you're doing is creating a personal climate action plan, and it all happens just on a form like this, and then that will send you your personal climate action plan. It'll email that to you. But you're looking at what you would do, as Dar mentioned, the things that you would do in the things you've already done, the things that you're going to do in the next year, and the things you'll do in the next 5 years. And you do this in 3 stages. You do a personal climate action plan for energy and transport, for drawdown and sequester, and then for consumption and getting to 2040. And at the end, you have your plan. And as Dar said, you're doing that with other folks. And there's a study I saw, I read about, where when you sort of fly, if you're flying in an airplane and you see a whole bunch of solar panels on a roof, that it's likely that wasn't just a great solar salesman. It was because those people were talking to each other, and that's how those solar panels end up going from house to house. Because when you see your neighbor do that, it gives you this sense of permission, and it makes it okay to do these things. So that's a big factor in Crew, is you hear it from folks, in your group. Every time I would learn, whether it was rethinking of why would I use my clothes dryer, or why would I use a drying cycle on my dishwasher, or why wouldn't I use Swedish dishcloths and things like that. Like all these sort of things have started to come up just because I was connected to folks. So that's the personal climate action plan, and we have big goals because we want 10,000 personal climate action plans by the end of this year. So I want to say that again. We want 10,000 personal climate action plans in 2024. So we want to complete that in these next, less than 12 months, 11 months and maybe a week and a half already, because January is running away from us already. So these are the goals in front of us. And so we have a couple programs that we do. One would be a program for folks like you. And this is a free program. This is something to just help you take action in your community. And from the sound of all the folks on this call, you're all doing so many things, but this is another tool in your toolkit. And so our program for adults is to run a crew. We have that all laid out for you. And it's a really, really simple process. You can, get the book at your library. You can, buy the book. There's a Kindle version of it as well. And go through that, assemble your crew, and inspire not only yourself, but also to inspire others to create those personal climate action plans. And another way that we're going to achieve this goal is we've introduced a student volunteer program offering students the opportunity to go through a crew, and also to bring it to their family. And I've been working with a few students who are really excited about a sustainability club out of North Carolina that's about to start next week. It has 23 students that are going to take their opportunity to go through a crew. And then the hope and the mission for them, I won't say hope, the mission for them is to take that into their families and do this in their household. So through the students, we can reach the families, and that's one of our plans for scale. So I think
Also,
it's a great service project.
could you
Oh,
talk
what's that?
about community service hours?
Yeah, so we know that students are seeking, different ways to earn community service hours. And so through this program, students that come on board as a Carbon Crew volunteer will earn their community service hours by going through the book, creating personal climate action plans, and then bringing this to their families. And we know that that's one way to sort of catch the eye of folks, of students who are seeking those hours, but are also interested in the environment, looking for ways that they can inspire change in their households, in their communities. And I don't know how many parents we have on this call, but I know for certain that my children definitely influenced the way that we purchased in our house. And I've been really, really impressed with the kids that we've met so far. We probably have just maybe with the new folks on, maybe about 40 or so kids who are in some process here in our volunteer program. So it's folks like yourselves who are leading crews as adults, and then it's students that are coming to us, and that's really where getting an opportunity. We're really thankful to have the opportunity to come on tonight and talk to you, to ideate with you, to connect with you, to inspire you to see where you might bring crew. And we want to invite you to learn how to volunteer, to host a crew in your community. Again, it's a free program, and we need and want your input on this because of who you are and because of your connection to the environment. So I'm actually going to put a link in the chat, or you can scan here as well, but I'm just going to send a little link in the chat if you don't mind. And you can fill that out, and we will give you the information on how you might start a crew in your community. And it is really simple, really, really impactful. And just from the introductions alone, I mean, this is crew leadership, like right here on this call. I don't know, Joe and Sheila and Dar, like these are our people, the folks who could really inspire a lot of folks. So we really want to invite you to learn more about it. We would love to connect with you about that. And before I sort of wrap up, we'd love to just hear a little bit from you of maybe as you hear this, some questions that you might have, and hear from you where you might bring crew and where you might do something like this. So I'd love to open it up to see if you had any questions out there.
Is there anything in the works to crew into commercial environments? So like business, there's a lot of entities that we work with that have significant carbon reduction goals or environmental goals or sustainability goals. Is this something that can be adopted in that regard?
We do. So we have what our company crew program, where the philosophy behind that. And I'm sorry, it says Global Energy Partners, and I just want to. What was your first name again?
Mike. Sorry, man.
Mike. No, thanks for the question. Yeah. So we one of the team, one of our team members, Michelangelo, couldn't be on tonight. He's been reaching out to some companies to figure out the way that crew could. I think crew in for a group of like a company team to go through together would naturally spill over into helping that company meet some of those goals, because philosophically they're going to get aligned with responsibility, right? The things roll. So we do have a program that plugs into company. We've been focusing on the adult and the student volunteer, but that program is plug and play, ready to go. So I'd love to connect with you after this. And again, that's another free program that we would love to bring to some of those companies. So I'll make sure you have my contact info.
That'd be great. It's wild that you mentioned that, because people don't realize how much of the impact that they have at their place of work on the energy usage. They think it's all just mechanical or machines, but it's the human impact, the human element of, I don't care about this light, that I left on, or I don't care about my computer left on all night instead of sleep mode. Things like that have significant energy and kilowatt impacts. So changing behavior it has more impact than a lot of things that we consider to have more impact. So good stuff. Thank you.
No, that's well said. That's well said, Mike. And there's something about, I have to say, we're in such a digital world, but I have to say there is something about holding a book still and reading a book and then sharing that with people. It lights up different parts of the brain. And that idea of, having that opportunity to come together with folks and talk about it, it does change behavior. So I'd love to talk to you about company crew. We've got something for you for sure. Got a couple of hands. Miss Mary, my neighbor. I see your hand up there.
Okay. Hi, Mark. First of all, thank you for giving me a copy of 2040. I'm halfway through it, but I cheated and I had to see the movie first. So now I'm a real fan of David Gamu, and I actually watched that sugar one. And I've been off sugar for 7 days now, so I'm doing good. But anyway,
all right.
So I'm trying to look at the logistics, because I feel, as environmental chair for one of the biggest Rotary districts, actually the first Rotary district in the world, I could have an impact, but I'm not sure about organizing. How do I was thinking about the Westmont, Illinois Library, and going through them, because they're quite the environmentalists, and we did get the grant through Rotary approved for their straw bale garden. But how do I organize? I mean, how long of a time commitment? I saw there was 6 sessions or 7 sessions on this.
5 sessions. 5 sessions. It's 5 sessions. Yeah, 5 sessions.
And about how long?
We broke the book into those. About an hour, a little over an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. Usually it's the discussion. So it depends on the size of the group too, but hour and 20 minutes.
So I'm thinking of community organizations more than corporate. And would this be good to offer maybe through a park district or a library?
Absolutely.
You think?
Mary, absolutely.
Mary, this is Josephine. And
Hi, Josephine.
hi. I'm a former educator, and one of my dear friends who was also an educator and then turned businesswoman. When
Me too. I was a teacher. I was a teacher also.
So she has that natural ability and interest in sharing knowledge with others. She went through her local library in Massachusetts. She's run
Okay.
over a dozen crews through that library. Many standard libraries, as part of their standard programming, offer book club opportunities. And Marjorie has been featuring 2040 and got her library to purchase, I think, 6 or 8 copies of the book. And so people don't even have to purchase them. They use them. And then after their 5 sessions are over, the next crew started. And she's done over a dozen with her local library. So libraries are a great spot, natural fit.
Yes, once I get through these environmental grants by June, I'll be all done with all the plantings in the area. Then I thought, I want to continue with this environmental committee at the district level and try and do some interesting things that maybe Rotarians would be able to join, community members would be able to join. So, okay, thank you for the advice.
In your area, the interact clubs at the local high schools in your
Okay.
district, they would be ready-made, given hopefully the emphasis that the club is or the district has made on the environment, to see if you could get the interact kids to focus on a 2040 crew.
Because they have environmental clubs in all the high schools. I was a high school teacher for 40 years. So, I mean, most high schools now do have an environmental club. Yes. Well, Mark, I'll
Yeah.
be.
So Mary, we're so in proximity, right? So we can get together, and I'd love to work with you on the student side, the volunteer side, and the adult side. Right here at Starbucks, right over there.